Senior Special Assistant to the President on Digital Transformation, Mr. Oswald Osareti Gobadia. Heads of agencies under the ministry here present, Professor Umar Garba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commission, Kashifu Inua Abdullahi, Director General, National Information Technology Development Agency, NIDA, Engineer Aliyu Aziz, Director General, National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, Dr. Femi Adeluyi, Technical Assistant to the Honorable Minister, all other senior special assistants here present, special assistants, personal assistants to the President here present, all members of the Presidential Communications team, gentlemen of the press, good morning. You're welcome to the 6th session of the State House briefing organized by the Presidential Communications team. You may recall that last week we had representatives from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources led by the Honorable Minister of State Petroleum Resources address us here. For this week's session of the State House briefing, we'll have the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Dr. Issa Pantami, who will brief the press today and provide key updates on critical issues relating to the telecommunications sector. As you all may know, the telecommunications sector has really played a key role in helping the GDP of our country, especially coming out of recession last quarter. The communications sector played a key role. Now, some of the issues that he'll be discussing with us this morning are on the national identification number, the SIM registration process, National Digital Identity Program, strategies to increase broadband penetration, as well as using information technology, IT, to promote transparency and reduce corruption in Nigeria. Now, the Honorable Minister, the way we do it is the Honorable Minister will make a presentation. After he's done with his presentation, we'll take questions from members of the press. Also, we'd like to inform you that this event is being streamed live on the State House YouTube page as well as other media platforms. The links will be circulated so that everyone can share on their respective media platforms. At this juncture, I'll invite the Honorable Minister to the podium to make his presentation. After that, we'll take the question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President on the Media and Publicity, Malam Garba Shehu. Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President on Strategic Communications, Office of the Chief of Staff to Mr. President. Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President on Digital Transformation. Executive Vice Chairman of Nigerian Communications Commission. Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency, Director General of the National Identity Management Commission, ladies and gentlemen of the press, other political appointees of Mr. President here present, particularly PA on the new media, all other protocols duly and respectfully observe. Good morning, and may peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you all. I am highly delighted to have this engagement with our brothers and sisters from the media in order to update them on the activities of the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, particularly activities to do with information and communications technology in specific and digital economy in general. I begin by commending the effort of Mr. President team, particularly in the State House here, for coordinating this event and inviting ministers to come and stand before you, where you examine them and you x-ray their activities, you ask critical questions, and they respond. And I think this is part of accountability and transparency, and this is highly commendable. Furthermore, I anticipated that the session is more of an interaction completely without making any presentation. So when I came here, I arrived with the intention of entertaining questions rather than making any presentation. However, Since I had been given the opportunity to make presentation, I will do that superficially. As a teacher, if I speak too long, then you need to pull me back so that I will be able to stop. And I think it's very important. Firstly, as you will remember that as ministers, we were assigned portfolio on 21st August 2019. Immediately after assuming duty in the ministry, I had engagement with my colleague, the permanent secretary and directors of the ministry, and later on I engaged the CEOs under the supervision of the ministry, CEOs of NCC, NITDA, Galaxy, Niche Comsat, Nigerian Postal Communications, Nigerian Postal Services, and even Universal Service Provision Fund. After our engagement and reviewing the existing programs of the ministry, I discovered that the digital economy was completely missing. Digital economy is an integration of ICT. ICT is a standalone sector, but digital economy is an integration of ICT sector, or you may safely say that it is ICT sector plus digital services. Both of them combined together give you digital economy. When I discovered digital economy was missing, and this is what the International Telecommunications Union, World Economic Forum, and many more institutions were agitating for, that countries should focus more on digital economy because that will go a long way in improving the general economy, including the traditional economy in their countries. I had a privilege of meeting Mr. President, and I briefed him about what I have reviewed in the ministry, and I pleaded for his permission to bring a proposal in which we will be able to integrate the ministry to accommodate digital economy by citing some examples in the Europe, Asia, North America, South America, including Africa, where at least they focus more on digital economy rather than ICT. Mr. President gave me that permission, and we sent a proposal, a very comprehensive proposal to him, in which Mr. President approved as usual, because if you convince him with any strong argument, he will always consider your own application. That has been approved, and on 17 October 2019, and later on 23rd, it was presented before the Federal Executive Council, and we officially started implementing digital economy on the 24th October 2019. Part of the responsibility given to us by Mr. President then was to develop the national digital economy policy and strategy for a digital Nigeria, in which we assembled a team of experts from both private and public sector, and they developed the policy. And we also engaged stakeholders, around 280 stakeholders during e-Nigeria, where they also reviewed the policy. They looked into it constructively. They made recommendations, constructive criticism where necessary, and commendations as well. On the 28th of November 2019, Mr. President approved, unveiled, and launched the policy. And we started implementing the policy today. It has 8 pillars. Number 1 is developmental regulation. Number 2, digital services. Number 3 is solid infrastructure. Number 4 is service infrastructure. Number 5 is digital services. Number 6 is soft infrastructure. Number 7 is digital society and emerging technologies. Number 8 is indigenous content development and promotion. These are the 8 pillars captured in that document, or rather in that policy. And the journey so far has been very commendable. A lot has been achieved in implementing all the pillars of this national digital economy policy and strategy for a digital Nigeria. Some of the major achievements that we have achieved on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, superficially, I will go through some of them. Under developmental regulation, we developed so many subsidiary legislations in order to ensure that the sector is well regulated. All the CEOs here are at least the CEOs of regulatory institutions, all the three of them. So because of this developmental regulation, it allows us to regulate the sector. And we use the word developmental because usually people do not like regulation. Regulation is being considered as a restriction unnecessarily. But we want to change the perception and show to our citizens that our regulation is to promote and support development, not in any way to jeopardize it. So that is why it is developmental regulation. We came up with so many subsidiary legislations and regulatory instruments. Particularly, we have Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. We also have Nigeria E-Government Interoperability Framework. We also have Nigerian Enterprise Architecture. We also have Nigeria Cloud Computing Policy. So this is just an example of some of the regulatory instruments that we have developed so far. And we still have many in the pipeline. Furthermore, the second one, that is digital services, or rather digital skills and literacy. In this area, we have been training our citizens, males, females, people in urban cities, rural areas. Even yesterday, I was at Junior Secondary School, Karshi, outskirts of Abuja, where we launched another program that we call it National Adopted Schools for Smart Education, that is NASSE, N-A-S-S-E. We started with underserved and unserved areas. And it was the first pilot program of the federal government of Nigeria. We couldn't start here within Abuja. We started with Karshi. And I was there personally yesterday after the Federal Executive Council. We spent hours with students discussing them. We distributed tablets to all of them. We deployed a system for them, include where they will be taught online, and we distributed laptops with content inside, and it is indeed an indigenous content where students, even at home, can receive lectures from their teachers. With your tab, you will be able to join your class at home. And federal government pays even for the broadband they use. It was indeed a pilot program. This is part of digital skills and literacy. In addition, we introduced so many trainings in order to ensure there is an inclusion of all our citizens, like people with disabilities. Now they are being trained. And it is the first in the history of Nigeria where people with disability are trained. We train them, we distribute facilities to all of them, we provide seed funding for them. As it is today, there are people with disabilities that became entrepreneurs in Nigeria through that training. This is in addition to training even our children in primary school. We introduce a program that we call it Catch Them Young. We try to introduce them to coding, software development, even in primary school. So these are some of the activities. And even during lockdown, when we were restricted, we were not even allowed to come outside except under critical situation or for essential services. We launched what we call Virtual Academy, 2 virtual institutions where citizens were allowed to enroll and obtain certification in emerging technologies like cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, robotics, and many more. Within that period of lockdown, through the virtual institutions we have established, more than 200,000 Nigerians enrolled and obtained their certification, and for free. And this is in addition to so many trainings we have been doing, including our civil servants. They are being trained. After every 1 or 2 weeks, we organize training for them. We establish National E-Government Training Center in Kubwa, Public Service Institute, where civil servants are being trained in batches. These are some of the activities of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration in the area of building the capacity of our citizens. Many of our citizens also obtain scholarship sponsored by federal government to study within or outside the country, particularly in areas where we believe we don't have sufficient skills, like the area of emerging technology. Some studied in Germany, some in the US, some in the UK, some in Asia, and many more. Thirdly, solid infrastructure is the third pillar. Under solid infrastructure, by the time the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari came on board around 2015, broadband penetration in the country was not even up to 20%. By 2019, it was 33%. From 2015 to 2019, there was an average increase of around 5% annually. But from 2000 to 2019, if you compute, you will discover in 19 years, broadband penetration was 33%, meaning an average annual increase of 1.7%. But from 2019 to 2020, we were able to, August 2019 to November 2020, we were able to increase the penetration by more than 10%. And this is unprecedented in the history of this country. In the previous years, around maybe before even 2015, some years the broadband penetration was less than 1% throughout the year. So achieving more than 10% within a year is unprecedented. And this is one of the major achievements that has been attained. And broadband penetration, as we all know, is key to our economy. A report of the United Nations, particularly ITU, Ericsson, World Economics, and Oxford Economics, and many more, all of them claimed professionally that 10% broadband penetration will increase the gross domestic product of a country significantly, starting from 1.8 up to around 6.8 as the case may be. And you will clearly see that broadband penetration has been very useful to us during lockdown. A country like the United States of America, after the end of last year, their economy was minus 19, but in Nigeria it was even minus 6. Many experts predicted that we will exit recession at the end of 2021, but at the end of 2020, we exited recession. Why? With all sense of humility, it significantly depends on the success of the digital economy sector. For example, a recent report released by National Bureau of Statistics for the fourth quarter of 2020, the report stated that the most performing sector of our economy in Nigeria is ICT sector. Not only the most performing, ICT sector grew by 14.70%, followed by another sector which grew by 3.41%. Look at the gap between 14.07% to 3.41%. ICT sector is more than 4 times the performance of the second most performing sector. Furthermore, in the entire year between January to December 2020, ICT sector grew by 12.90%, followed by another sector which grew by 3%, meaning ICT sector performed more than 3 times the performance of the second most performing sector of our economy. That aside, if you look at the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh most performing sectors, 6 of them combined together, their growth rate is not up to that of ICT alone. ICT alone grew by 14.07, as I said, while in the whole year by 12.90%. If you sum them all from the second to 7, you will discover the performance was 14.21%, meaning ICT alone grew by more than 0.49% of all the 6 other sectors combined together. And you will discover that where we have minus, the increase in ICT sector was more than the minus in other sectors. And by implication, ICT sector complemented the negative performance of other sector, and this played a significant role in pulling out our country from recession. And that is why we say, if we implement digital economy, we'll definitely see wonders, and this is one of them indeed. So this is part of solid infrastructure. Part of solid infrastructure also, the federal government of Nigeria has a Tier 3 data center in Abuja, and we also have backup data center somewhere in the country. Why? Because data center is part of solid infrastructure. And the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari also came up with a policy which mandated all federal public institutions to ensure that citizens' data is resided within the country. And the compliance, by the time we came on board, the compliance was less than 20%, but today is more than 90%. Many institutions were compelled to comply with the provision of our laws and policies and ensure that our data is within the country. And this has also been achieved significantly. And we have federal government data center, we have private data centers in the country like Main One, Iraq Center, and a few others as well. Then the fourth one is service infrastructure. That is the promotion of online activities like digital services. In that area also a lot has been achieved. Part of the policies of the federal government of Nigeria also under this is we have distributed even .ng domain name for free to our citizens, particularly those who register their company and they want to have a website where they can do their activities online. We have been distributing .ng domain name for free to the citizens, as long as we can clearly see justification of your own company, activities you have been doing, and you want to go online, we always provide the support for you. And this is another area of promoting our entrepreneurs, because as we have been agitating for micro, small, and medium enterprises to succeed, and they constitute significant part of our economy in the country, our gross domestic product, then we also need to encourage them to go online. Because if you do manage your enterprise traditionally or manually, you will discover that the scope is very limited. Only people that are around will know what you are doing. But if you go online, it will give it an international face. And this is very important. And this is what makes Massachusetts Institute of Technology a very successful university globally, to the extent that their performance is being entitled as MIT Nation. The graduates of the institution, they are called MIT Nation. They are no more just a university, but rather a nation. A university that their GDP is more than that of India as a country. India GDP is around 1.98 trillion USD. But Massachusetts, MIT as a university, their collective GDP, the GDP of their serial entrepreneurs is more than that of India as a country. And if it is a nation, their GDP will make them to be the 10th largest economy globally. They will be somewhere in between Russia with GDP of 2.08%, 2.08 trillion USD, and that Russia and India. Why? Because of their approach of going online, encouraging their entrepreneurs to always have international face. That is what they call IDE, Innovation-Driven Entrepreneurship. This has also been launched in Nigeria. We have been doing that. And under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, MIT considered Nigeria as one of their centers where they will train young entrepreneurs. They will discover some critical sectors, give all the necessary support that we need in order to ensure our entrepreneurs are very successful, particularly in going virtual and in going online. With all sense of humility, I am the Nigerian champion. I am leading a team from Nigeria that has registered with MIT as an institution, and we have recently started the program. And many countries applied. Most probably they received around 400 applications. Only 6 teams were selected. And I'm glad to say that Nigerian team has been selected. Not only has been selected, among the 6 most successful teams, we are on top of all of them. And the program has started. This is part of digital services. This takes me to pillar number 5. That is soft infrastructure. Soft infrastructure is more about cybersecurity, which is also very key. As part of cybersecurity, the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, through digital economy, we have come up with so many initiatives. One of them, we have established what we call Computer Emergency Response and Readiness Team. That is CERRT, Computer Emergency Response and Readiness Team. This center will always has been monitoring potential attacks on Nigeria from cyber criminals. We have been alerting federal, public and private sector, particularly those that are going to be targeted. We share confidential information with them. We share reports with them. We advise them on what to do and how to do it. Even 2 days ago, we have started another program where some criminals have started exploiting some weaknesses of some systems that have been developed globally. We are working on that, and we have started alerting the institutions to update their system or to replace their software, as the case may be. The issue of cybersecurity is not an issue that we speak on length in public. It is more of creating awareness on what to do and how to do it. And we have been very successful in doing that. We also introduced training on cybersecurity to our staff in the public institution where they are being trained. We have been moving from one state to another, providing the skills and the capacity building to our citizens, including at the state level. This has been ongoing, and part of that is why what brought about Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. It is a subsidiary legislation of the current administration to ensure that data of our citizens at our disposal must be treated confidentially. And this is part of the great achievements of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. In Nigeria, we are the first country in Africa to have a subsidiary legislation on Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. If you go online, you will discover all other African nations are making reference to our modest achievement in Nigeria, and they are also making reference to our Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, and they rely on it in order to develop their own one. Number 6 also is digital society and emerging technologies. Under digital society and emerging technologies, we have made digital economy to be all-inclusive, where we have been engaging states to ensure that we support them to build and establish their state digital economy, or to have an office dedicated for that. We provide intervention for them where necessary. Part of emerging technologies, we have established National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. It is the first center on artificial intelligence and robotics in Africa. This has been established not more than 3 months ago by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The center is open for all our citizens here in Abuja. As long as there is a justification, you want to use the center, you come up with your own idea where you want government to support you with seed funding or place for you to be trained or to mentor you. The center is available for our citizens. As long as we are convinced that the idea you come up with needs our intervention, we always provide it. It is the first national center on artificial intelligence and robotics in Africa, and this has also been achieved, and it is all about making sure that we provide the enabling environment for our youth with disruptive ideas to come, stay there, to be mentored, to incubate their ideas and achieve a lot. And furthermore, the federal government of Nigeria also, in order to provide at least an enabling environment for our citizens to challenge their ability, not their disability, to challenge their ability, the Federal Executive Council has also approved the establishment of National Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center here in Abuja, because these are the two prerequisites to building an indigenous digital economy. Number 1 is digital innovation, and number 2 is digital entrepreneurship. The project has been ongoing, and I believe some of you even attended the groundbreaking ceremony of the center. In addition to National ICT Park, which was also approved by the Federal Executive Council not more than 3 months ago. And it is clearly that National ICT Park, the idea was conceptualized since 2003, but it was only on paper. Only from 2019 we took up the issue, and by 2020, early 2021, we have started the project. And it is a national ICT park indeed, and it's part of the ongoing projects of the current administration. And in order also to make data affordable, by 2019, an average price of data in Nigeria, 1 gigabyte, is around 1,200 naira. This has been included in a report even recently sent to me by the Executive Vice Chairman of NCC. As it is today, the average price of 1 gigabyte of data is less than 500 naira. The average price. So, meaning a decrease of more than 50%. And this has been achieved through the effort of federal government to reduce the cost of data production. Because if you want to bring down price, you must address the challenges that make production more expensive. So we address most of the challenges to deal with the production of data. Number one major issue is the issue of right of way. Right of way is the number one challenge. Some states, when we came on board, were collecting 16,000 naira per linear meter. Some 10,000, some 12,000. While the earlier agreement, it should be 145 naira per linear meter. It was under the instruction of Mr. President on the 22nd January 2020, I was able to engage with Nigeria Governors Forum on that issue during one of their meetings. We made presentation. I was supported by EVC, NCC, and DG NIDA, and the chair of our National Broadband Plan, Funke Opeke from Lagos. We made presentation to them, and we convinced them that data or broadband penetration is beyond the little amount you collect for tax. If there is broadband penetration in your state, it will support all other economic activities. We convinced them. Then the compliance after the meeting was up to around 80%. We discovered few challenges with other states. Only 2 weeks ago, I also engaged them through National Economic Council under the leadership of His Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshimbajo. I also engaged all the governors, and then we had an agreement that from now henceforth, all other states will comply to 145 per linear meter. This is a deliberate attempt to ensure we reduce cost of production. By doing that, the price of data will continue to come down. And this has been achieved significantly. And for the first time, when the investors complain about vandalization of their infrastructure, we wrote a request to Mr. President in which he approved by directing all security institutions to provide protection to our critical national infrastructure under the ICT sector. The Mr. President directive was conveyed to all security institutions on the 8th of June 2020, and that has reduced the unnecessary vandalization of critical infrastructure significantly. There are a few other challenges, but it has reduced significantly, and the investors are grateful and appreciative to the federal government. This takes me to number 7 of our pillars briefly. That is digital society and emerging technologies. I think it's number 7. Then number 8, that is indigenous content development and promotion. Indigenous content is to ensure to implement the statement of Mr. President. We produce what we eat and we eat what we produce. This is not just a physical or a literal interpretation, but we have expanded it into more technical, meaning this should not be restricted to agriculture, but rather even in ICT. We must produce what we eat and we must eat what we produce. Many peripheral devices and other requirements are being produced so far locally. We still recently developed a policy under the directives of Mr. President that he approved the policy on 3rd of March 2021, within this month. The policy is National Policy on the development of indigenous content in telecommunications sector. That policy is to ensure that before the end of our administration, we want to ensure that whatever we have the capacity to develop locally, there is no any room for importation. This is an avenue for us to create many jobs for our citizens. The policy has been approved, and I do hope it will be launched recently, and it is ready for implementation. This is part of our effort to ensure that we produce what we eat. And part of that policy, because the development and implementation were going concurrently, before the coming of the administration, most of the CEOs of our major ICT companies were not Nigerians. But as it is today, we were able to achieve that, if not all. I can say all of the CEOs as it is today are Nigerians. This is the first in the history of this country. They are all Nigerians. And another one, even the chairmen of their boards are Nigerians. It is not what we inherited, but it is an effort of government to ensure that as long as our citizens have the capacity to do, the priority and preference must be given to them. And this is part of what has been achieved recently. When it comes to computers, the patronage of local content before the coming of this administration was less than 90,000 annually. But as of 3 years ago, it was more than 500,000 computers, an increase of more than 600%. And the number is rising. And we use the opportunity to encourage our indigenous investors that there are many opportunities in the sector. They should come and establish manufacturing plant in Nigeria. Federal government have policies in place to ensure that their investment are very successful. And finally, in order to ensure the total implementation of our national digital economy policy and strategy, under the directive of Mr. President, we have developed many policies that will cascade the implementation of the major policy, like Nigerian National Broadband Plan 2020-2025. We want to ensure that by 2025, penetration of broadband within our population, 90% minimum target. When it comes to our landmass, minimum target is 70%. And we want to ensure as well that in urban cities, we have a minimum of 25 MB per second, while in rural areas, we have a minimum of 10 MB per second. And we plan that by the time we develop the plan, the average price of 1 gigabyte, as I said earlier, is 1,200. But the plan targets that the maximum price of data by the end of implementation should be maximum $1 per gigabyte, according to government exchange rate, which should be around 380 naira or thereabout. So far, the reduction is more than 50% averagely. So I think we are on track. So this is another policy we have developed. Also part of the policies developed is what we call national policy on virtual engagements in the federal public institution. The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has instituted virtual engagements today. They are official. We were compelled to do that by COVID-19 pandemic, but now it has been institutionalized by the policy of the federal government, national policy on virtual engagements in the federal public institution. Now it has been institutionalized. That is why we have Federal Executive Council meetings virtually, National Economic Council meeting virtually, Security Council meeting virtually, and so many constitutional engagements are being conducted virtually. So now it has been institutionalized. It's part of one of the policies developed by the current administration, being coordinated by the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. We also develop policy, National Digital ID for internally displaced persons. We don't have a complete database of our citizens in place, but we want to ensure we give priority to people that are vulnerable, people that don't have any means of identification. You will discover they are mostly in IDPs. That policy has been developed that whenever there is any displacement, we will ensure we go there, we provide digital ID for all of them, so that government will be able to know how many people are displaced, and it will promote accountability and transparency when it comes to spending. You know, you have 50,000 people there, 11,000 there, so whatever is spent, there must be a justification to agree with the total number of people that have been displaced in that area. It's one of the policies developed by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Only 2 weeks ago also, we developed and launched another policy, that is National Policy on VSAT core skills installation. VSAT installation core skills. It is a national policy where we have launched it by providing our citizens with the key skills required for VSAT installation. The training took place for the first batch in Lagos, I think Ogun, then the 2 states also in the southeast, 2 states in the south-south, 2 states in the north-central, 2 states in the northwest, 2 states in the northeast. We have started the training, and including digital job creation training for our citizens. This is another policy, because the market of VSAT installation is very encouraging. That is why even the United Nations make it a policy to support countries to develop their skills. We have launched the policy and we have started the implementation. The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari under digital economy, we have developed the policy of a national policy for for the development of indigenous content in the telecommunications sector. We also developed national policy on NIN and SIM registration. It is also a new policy of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. We also finished the draft work of national policy on digital innovation and entrepreneurship. We are at the final stage of the policy, at least 95% done. So we have developed more than a dozen policies. And not only the development, we ensure that all policies are being implemented. We don't have a single policy that has been developed which we have not started the implementation critically. And finally, when it comes to national identity number, which is another issue, based on the requirement by law, each and every citizen and legal resident must obtain his national identification number, that is NIN, which is being coordinated by the National Identity Management Commission. It's a requirement by law, but many citizens ignore it. What we have achieved in the area of enrollment, from the time Mr. President has directed me to supervise NIMSI to date, is unprecedented. And we will continue to ensure that in the next few years, we have almost a complete database of all our citizens in the country. It is a requirement by law. No country will be successful in education or health or budget planning or national planning without database of its citizens in place. What I inherited in the database is less than 20% of our population. But we want to ensure that before we leave office, we will look at the database and be proud of our country. This is what the US did. They have social security number. In the UK, they have national insurance number. For example, in Saudi Arabia, I know they have Iqama number. In India, with their population, they have Aadhaar number. In Pakistan, they have Nadra number. What we have started of linking NIN with SIM, recently Pakistan copied from us. Any country dealing with insecurity must give priority and preference to that. It is for national interest and to ensure we contribute our quota towards ensuring that our citizens are well protected. We understand our priority as a government is the protection, the security and welfare of our citizens as in the Constitution 1999 as amended Section 14, subsection 2 under Article B. And that is why whatever we do, that should be our priority and preference. Thank you very much for listening.